Matthew chapter 26, verse 17. Now on the first day of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus saying, Where will you have us prepare for you to eat the Passover? He said, Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, The teacher says, My time is at hand, and I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples. And the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. When it was evening, he reclined at the table with the 12, and as they were eating, he said, Truly I say to you, one of you will betray me. And they were very sorrowful, and began to say to him one after another, Is it I, Lord? He answered, He who has dipped his hand in the dish with me will betray me. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man if he had not been born. Judas, who would betray him, answered, Is it I, Rabbi? He said to him, You have said so. We'll stop there. Okay. I want to give, if we back up just a little bit to verse, it's technically 16, when it's talking about Judas, it says, and from that moment he, Judas, sought an opportunity to betray him. And it just goes right on into this, into what we had just read. So I kind of wanted to block that together from bookends, if you will. Okay, so let's talk about Passover and this unleavened bread stuff and stuff. It says now on the first day of unleavened bread. So here we go into the Jewish customs of feasts and holidays and stuff. It's one of the things that in America we really fully don't understand feasts as the rest of the world does celebrations. For example, in India, they don't just get a day off; they get a week off, and it could be the celebration of a light bulb. I don't know. Yeah. It is a celebration of some event or moment, and that's the whole week. We get a day. And if we're lucky, over the weekend, right? I mean, it's like Christmas is happens to be on a Saturday, but we're going to give us a Friday, the employer or something. That's it, that's all you get. So I don't think we fully understand as these feasts, like this unleavened bread, but it's commemorate 7 days. So why would Matthew be recording about the unleavened bread and this Passover? Why does he bring it up? If really the intent was to talk about Judas and his, and his betrayal, because that's kind of what this is wrapped into here. Why would Matthew start bringing up the Passover and the unleavened bread stuff? What's going on?
Well, I think it's kind of a hindsight thing. Christ is the Passover, the sacrificial lamb, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not coincidental that this all started or kicked off on Passover week or quarter or whatever they call it. But so I think he's trying to not necessarily tie it together, but Passover was also their Christmas, Thanksgiving, 4th of July all rolled into one.
Yes.
And it's the event of the year, I think. I'm not 100% positive. So it makes sense to tie it to that, because that's the Mardi Gras parade, if you want to call it that, of the year.
So is it just happenstance that these events align together? We got Jesus with their last time that he's about to have time with them as a meal, right? And Passover happens to be at the same time. Is this
just? No, I think it's a fulfillment of prophecy.
Okay.
These are all fulfillments of prophecy. I mean, even the betrayal is the fulfillment of prophecy. So I think that's what all of these, and I think that's why they're all important. And the reason why they're laid out the way they are is because this thing is that we're snowballing now, right, to the end.
Right.
And I think that's what's occurring here now. Things are beginning to line up prophetically to a point where if you were truly a student if you're truly a student of Old Testament like they should have been, this should have been obvious what was happening, right? That's,
Well, plus this is where he says the time's at hand.
yes,
It's not, before it's like, I'm gonna leave you with, and all these metaphors and like,
Yes.
what are you talking about? Now he says, it started.
yep.
Okay, let's get a background on this. Let's go to Exodus chapter 12. If I could figure out how to turn my phone on. Here we go.
Exodus 12, you said?
Exodus 12, and I don't want to really read the entire chapter, although it does help to have all of it understood. Let's jump. Shoot. I don't know if there's two references in 12. One is a later verse and one's an earlier verse, but really the later verse is more applicable to us.
14.
Yeah, I was thinking it might be in that zone to start at 14 through 17, but, well, I'll tell you what, we'll go ahead and do it. We'll just bite the bullet and read the Bible, okay?
Yeah.
And just suffer us here. It started at 14 of Exodus 12. Frank, you want to read it?
All right.
Do 14 through 17.
And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and ye shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it as a feast by an ordinance forever. 7 days shall ye eat unleavened bread. Even the first day ye shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the seventh day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. And the first day there shall be a holy convocation, and in the seventh day there shall be a holy convocation to you. No manner of work shall be done in them, save that which every man must eat. That only may be done of you. And ye shall observe the feast of unleavened bread. For in this selfsame day have I brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall ye observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever.
Okay, and let's jump then to 21 through 23. Jay, can I impose on you? 21 through 23?
Sure. If I can focus on this, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. You want me to hold it back further?
No, that doesn't help, trust me, I get the other way from me. Then Moses called to all the elders of Israel and said to them, pick out and take lambs for yourselves according to your families, and kill the Passover lamb. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop, dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the two doorposts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out of the door of his house until morning. How far did you say?
23, include 23.
For the Lord will pass through to strike the Egyptians. And when he sees the blood on the lintel and on the two doorposts, the Lord will pass over the door and not allow the destroyer to come into your houses and strike you.
So we see in 23 that the Lord will pass over the door, and thus where we get the Passover. Mm-hmm. Are they after you guys? Are they
Maybe John.
chasing you down, or John? Maybe? Okay.
After some guy in a Jeep, looks like an army Jeep.
Yeah, in a brown army jeep, right? Chasing a little white
Chasing
pickup
the
truck.
guy, yeah.
Poor Steve. I don't know, Jay, if you caught that. But
I'm not sure.
Steve had an issue with that. We'll have to take
Oh,
it later.
okay.
Yeah.
It's,
He was warned us. If you see that Jeep, get away from that guy. He's crazy.
it's funny. So this Passover, which we see in Exodus 12, is described what do you want to call that? The implementation, the start of this. So the unleavened bread and Passover, although there are two different things, they're all just kind of tied all together.
Yes.
So what's the Feast of the Unleavened Bread was ahead of it, whatever.
Right.
The Passover, right?
Well, it is a precursor. I might do it like this. Although we do it in 2 days, Christmas Eve and Christmas, they do it in 7 days.
Right.
Okay? So the unleavened bread feast is the seventh, and on the seventh day is the Passover.
Right, but
So
what
there's
my point was, wasn't the Feast of the Unleavened Bread happening before they left Egypt?
Yes.
Yes.
And then they, I'm not going to say attached is the wrong term, then the Passover with the blood on the lintel, when he was instructed to do it, was on the seventh day of the unleavened bread, right?
That's what I understand.
So
I
they're
don't
two
think it's
different.
I don't think it's the 8th day. I think it's they're tied together.
Yeah, what my point is that they're not, the whole unleavened bread and the Passover, meaning the blood, didn't start off as one. They started off as
Two.
one, and then the
They're
Passover
all
came on top of
they're
it.
two but one. It's a Christmas Eve Christmas thing. You just
Yeah,
kind of you group them
Yeah,
together.
but you understand my point. Like, let's say 300 years earlier, didn't they do the Feast of the Unleavened Bread? And then they were delivered out of Egypt, so therefore the blood was added to it.
No. The unleavened bread was part of the feast. The unleavened bread was them not allowing the bread to rise.
No, I understand that.
To be
Right,
prepared
but to
to
be
leave.
prepared to leave. To leave
Okay.
Egypt.
They haven't-
So it was that, they were tied together.
Right.
And they
so
did,
they started together. I'll say
Right.
that.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Okay. For
yes.
some reason, I thought they were
Yeah. Not
kind of
two
like Christ was
timelines. No.
arrested and crucified on Passover.
I see.
You know what I mean? Where
Right.
Passover had happened for, I don't know, 100 years, whatever it was. And then,
Well, they did all those other plagues, and now this is just like the last
Yes.
plague before he let them go.
Yes.
That's correct.
right.
And,
And he was
So-
telling the people of Israel, get ready to go.
Yeah.
You ain't got a whole lot of time. 7 days
You
is
can
not
stand
enough to
up.
move your entire house.
you can stand up.
You stand up and
no.
sit, told them not to sit,
Not
right?
even sit,
Yeah.
yeah, so we're ready to go any moment, and so,
Right.
Okay.
Okay. And it is confusing because the way our stories and our culture has taught this and
Yeah,
all
we-
of this. So.
Toby and I had done I think we even did it in class one time, a study of all of the
the
feasts.
feast we did.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
the way that they're even prophetically the way they're divided between the spring and the fall.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a really good study
Yeah,
to do because
yeah.
you can really see how it
And at
It
12
rolls out
o'clock
in-
that night, the death angel came through the town, and wherever he saw the blood, he passed over that house.
Right.
Yeah.
And so each year they would celebrate that, remind how God provided the manna in the wilderness and everything.
Right.
And
Right.
so it was,
Right. So so it is a significant part. Obviously, it's a significant part of their culture, their history. It's their religious right. As a matter of fact, it was actually a law that you had to observe it. That's that statute, that it talks about. You'll have a statute,
was a mandate.
a
And they-
mandate.
and they-
It's another mandate,
and they met in Jerusalem. I always went to Jerusalem to celebrate it.
right?
And because of that, the Romans would send extra soldiers into the city now.
Was it right?
Because so many people were going to be there, and they're thinking about how they were delivered, and so they didn't want an uprising.
Right, right.
So that there's a chance there might be an uprising because they're thinking about, now we had certain ones that would uprise,
Sure.
and so,
Right. All right. So again, as we go back to 17, it says, "Now on the first day of unleavened bread." So now it's a little bit more clearer about what the first day is. And so the disciples themselves actually bring up the question, right? It wasn't Jesus initiating this, asking, "Where will you have us prepare for you to eat the Passover?" So it was
Yeah,
just
'cause they were,
expected.
itinerants right over there.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
didn't have a home to go to.
not
so to speak.
necessarily, right? I mean, they would often go to, where is it? I want to say, Bethany. That's in verse 6. At the house of Simon the leper is where they would often go. But for this, they weren't going to go there, which I find kind of interesting. And so they do ask, where are we going to go, kind of stuff. And he says, I don't know. If I was receiving these instructions from my project manager, I'd be saying, no. We need a little bit more specifics
It's like
here.
saying, going to New Orleans, and go to some guy and ask
Just
him.
go to this guy, who you will find. Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, and maybe it's just Matthew just didn't write it down on who the certain man was. I don't want to make it too human-like here.
Yeah, I mean, because, I mean, you look at, between the gospel writers, you know, detail versus what was
Right.
important or not.
Right.
And I can't imagine they just said, well, where they
Yeah,
find
I
the
can't-
donkey? There's a
right.
donkey tied up under a tree.
Right, exactly, that kind of
You
situation,
know,
right.
Yeah.
But my first thought is there's more information, but it was just irrelevant.
Right. Yeah, in the story that's being told here,
Right.
right? You know, when you're recounting the story, you obviously can't, you know, it just depends on the intent of the story,
Right.
of what you're trying to say. And
What's
here-
important? Is it really important that it
Right.
was John Doe,
Right,
you know, standing under a hyssop tree or
right,
whatever?
exactly. Yeah. So it tells, but Jesus says, the teacher says, my time is at hand, which I find super fascinating that it didn't get more play on that phrase. You know,
Yeah.
like, whoa, what do you mean? What? Huh? You know, that kind of stuff. He just says, my time is at hand. I will keep the Passover at your house with my disciples.
The way I figured this whole scene worked out,
Yeah.
either a lot happened, they just didn't capture it, or he said, go to this address and find John Doe, and the at hand could be, I need to do Passover. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they're thinking, that
Yeah.
Jesus meant something deeper, but they're thinking, oh, no, I got to do Passover, time's
Right.
at hand,
Right.
let's go.
Exactly.
That's the way I kind of figured it.
So the disciples in 19 obviously did as they directed, and they prepared the Passover. Frank and I were talking earlier this morning about, you know, what are your plans for Christmas, right?
Oh,
We talked about that, and we do preparation for that. We start making, okay, so we're going to travel here, we're going to go at this time, you know, we're going to get tables set up, I got to haul out some chairs, you know, whatever it be. That's that same kind of preparing here. I don't think it's necessarily a, go around with incense and, more religious, but more just
And for
the
12,
things that need to
13
be
people
doing.
to show up, and there may be an entourage behind that, I don't know.
They had,
Houses weren't that
they
big.
had to prepare the meal and
They
everything.
had the meal,
for that
right?
night, yeah.
So they're going to have that lamb.
They gotta cook it and
Is
all that.
what we're going to have.
Yeah, I think
We're
that
going to
will
have
work.
all the things that make a Passover meal. There was a person that did a Passover meal for us here.
Yeah.
And there's stuff that they had to have. I mean, the bitter herbs and the other.
6 or 7 or something,
things.
different little dishes and
Right.
dips and whatever else.
Yeah, when I read about bitter herbs, by the way, I believe that was coffee. I just believe because coffee is normally bitter and
Chicory coffee.
chicory coffee. It's got to be part of that as far as I'm concerned.
So we're doing our bit to,
That's right. We're
tradition
doing a
going.
Passover coffee thing here. Yeah, exactly. And so then we get into this bit about in the evening. So there's some time passed, right, between verse 19 and 20. There's a bit of time there that has passed. And as they were eating, so while they're and by the way, in the culture of the Jewish culture and many cultures in that area, a whole lot of them, eating was a very intimate thing. I mean, they were reclined. It wasn't just each person got served on their own little plate and it was own little division. I mean, it was a community food.
Right.
So bowls would be shared, and
Right.
this is way before COVID. Okay. You would never see this now or anything else. But then it was very typical. You had the bowl that might have had like a gravy in it or something, and you took your bread and you dipped it and you moved it on. And one commentator says, double dipping was allowed.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So this is a very intimate arrangement here. So as they're eating, he said, I started off with, by the way, truly I say to you, one of you will betray me. Here, have a bowl. And when he had said that, they then turned around and said, well, mine has, or very sorrowful. Does everyone have the word sorrowful? In verse 22?
You know, mine
Grieved.
says exceeding sorrowful.
Yeah, exceeding.
Mine
Exceeding
says
sorrowful.
Grieved.
deeply grieved.
Deeply grieved. Is this repentance?
So again,
Is this repentance? Are they repenting of something? Don't we often confuse being sorry for something to be repentance?
I wouldn't have said that.
Maybe they was finally getting to know that they don't know themselves. To say, is it I?
Well, the reason why I ask is, I mean, they do ask, is it I? And I think that's a great response
Mhm.
because you're really saying, honestly, I have the capacity to do this. I have the capacity to sin, to betray, to do this. I'm not saying I have, but it could be me. Just as equal.
Right.
So what is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see your point. I see where you're going. I think there's so much vagueness in a lot of this, in their minds, of what is being said, because we have the benefit of 2,000 years of hindsight. And they're I'll use the word team in our vernacular now, tight-knit team, and they said, well, one of you guys are going to betray me. It's like, who? Me? You?
Right.
And they're going to go around the room thinking, well, he's great at this, and he's great at this, and he loves him, and he did. We're all kind of equal, and they're starting to kind of wonder, well, because you notice they didn't say, oh, it's got to be Joe
Right.
over here. He's been always late for the meetings, and it wasn't that. It immediately went like, I trust everybody. Is it me?
Right.
And he did, and I wonder if the word betrayal was a slightly different version of the way we understand it, because betrayal to me implies premeditated. And if you were going to betray it, you weren't going to you knew whether you were planning it or not. So I think it meant more, one of you were, this is a terrible analogy, but it's sort of like at dinner tonight, one of y'all are going to break a glass. It's going to be me, it's going to be you. To me, that's the way, I'm not trying to trivialize it, but it's something that everyone's capable of doing, and they know they've done it before, and so therefore, that's why I wondered if the word betrayal has a slightly different literal translation or understanding.
I've been with Jesus and I've seen all the miracles he's done. He hasn't been wrong before on something he said. So when he said one of you's going to betray me,
Yeah.
now it's like, is it me? Because one of us is going to do it, I guess, since he said we are.
Yeah, Howard, I think that's a great point, is that, because this is a question.
Mm-hmm.
So they're not making a statement, it ain't me. They're asking him.
Right.
You're not saying that I'm gonna be the one to do it, knowing and I think realizing that that whoever said they had the capacity, they understood that they had the capacity to do it, yeah, that's,
I think it's huge.
it is, it really is.
Here is to acknowledge that, I don't care how close you are to the Lord, or how, in a perfect relationship with Him, that capacity to sin is great.
And being grieved in what Jay was saying as a group.
Yeah.
I mean, these were men who intimately knew him for 3 years,
Yes.
right? And saw the miracles and everything, and yet grieved because, first of all, as a group, someone here could
Right.
do it, and then
Right.
personally realizing it could be me, because I do have that, I have that, he has taught me that I have that capacity
Right.
to be able to,
Right.
to go as far as to betray him.
Right.
I mean, it's huge. It's a great point.
So Jesus answers them as they were asking, is it I type of thing. I think there might be some timing questions in the way the narration works here. But he says, he answers by saying, he who has dipped his hand in the dish with me will betray me. Well, they're all doing that.
Right. That's why they still did the who.
Right, exactly. I mean, it's still being passed around. It's not like, I mean, I know what Hollywood does. He who dips in with me, here, Judas. You know,
Yeah.
and they do it
Or
that
both
way.
hands happen to be in at the same time.
Right, exactly.
When he said that.
Exactly. But that's not the way the scripture
Yeah.
is ordered, and none of the other parallels do that as well, that way. But we, like you had alluded to earlier, we have hindsight of 1,000 years to look back
Yeah.
on this, so we'll look at it that way. 24, an interesting thing. The Son of Man goes as it is written of him. In 24. He is progressing as it's been prophesied, as it's been told. This is what's going to happen. And then you get this terrible thing here. But woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man if he had not been born.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ouch. Yeah.
But what's interesting is that, again, sequence, if you believe the sequence, even Judas asked, hey, is it I?
Yes.
But he had already met with the priest ahead of time.
Right. Exactly.
According to this.
Right. Just a few verses right up above where we were talking. He had already made his
So there's
plans.
some premeditation there.
That is correct. Yeah. Yeah. He was just waiting for the opportunity.
Right.
Uh,
And so you wonder if he was doing that,
Well, he had to cover himself. Honestly, he had to cover himself.
because
If-
all the other 11 said,
He
hey,
said,
is it I?
is it
Yeah,
I?
it's the
If
same
he had
thing.
said nothing, you know,
Right.
at least that's the way I'm interpreting this here. So.
That's
Well,
right.
it almost
Hollywood
gives you
Howard.
the, it almost gives you the impression that each one of them said, is it me?
Yeah.
And then, you know, and is it me? And then finally got to Judas and he said, is it me?
Right.
You know, and Jesus
Right.
said,
Yeah.
ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
You have said so, but moving on. I don't want to embarrass you in front of people or anything like that.
I didn't say it, you said it.
That's right, exactly. All right, it's past time. We need to stop here because we're going to get into the Lord's Supper, and I wanted to spend time on that one as well. So,
But you know, right there on 25 though, it says, and Judas which betrayed him answered and said, Master, is it I? All the others said, Lord, is it I? He's the only one that changed it.
this is
and said,
interesting
"Master, is it
nuance.
I?"
Yeah,
Well, that's interesting. I didn't
that's
pick that
yeah.
up.
I never
And
picked
mine
that up.
says rabbi.
Rabbi is mine says
Teacher,
rabbi.
not
teacher.
Right, which
Yeah.
is teacher. Right, exactly.
It's a step below.
Interesting.
Right,
that,
it said,
It makes you wonder if he actually thought he was Lord or just a miracle worker or ever.
Yeah, but I will tell you, back in 18? 18. Go into the city to a certain man and say to him, the teacher says, the rabbi
Right.
says.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there, it could be going back and forth,
Yeah.
back and forth. But that's an interesting thing about the usage of the word Lord there compared to
Master.
the master or rabbi or teacher.
And you wonder if,
Yeah.
it only says, each of the disciples said, Lord, is it I? So, he said 11 people said that. Now, whether it was verbatim or just kind of, now, odds are, I'm guessing here, the 11 all didn't use the exact,
Yeah.
well, they could have. You could have said it like, oh, well, is it me?
Yeah.
Is it me?
Yeah.
Is it me? Where, as opposed to, they would just change the word slightly for themselves.
Right.
So they could have used rabbi teach because he was
In or
known
out,
by all
right.
of them.
I guess I could, yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
That's just interesting.
We don't have transcripts, right?
Yeah.
Don't know why there was no video recording at the time. What's up with that?
The body cam wasn't working.
No body cams work. All right. All right, we're going to stop there and get into the Lord's Supper. Yep. And what are you guys praying for?